Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome back a repeat guest and a long-time friend, Damion Lupo, who is here to talk about his new venture that is completely disrupting the industry that is in. I'm super excited to dive in and hear all about Frame Tech. Damion, thanks so much for coming back.
Seth, it's so good to see you, man. It's been years and so much has changed.
Yes, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So do you want to do a brief, 2-minute, what EQRP was? And then I'd love to talk about the addition you've made.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 10 years ago, I launched a company called EQRP, and it was really because I saw a gap in the market. People had a lot of retirement money, and they were just putting it in Wall Street and hoping it would go up. And what I saw was a lot of people wanted to do something different. They wanted to invest in real estate and startups and Bitcoin and gold and all that stuff. And so we built this company and created a community of people that are self-responsible, that want to invest in those type of things. And the EQRP lets you take your IRAs and your 401ks and invest in things that make sense to you, things that you can touch and hold and, invest with people. And so the EQRP has done that. And now there's several thousand people in the community that are doing these type of deals and investing in things like Frame Tech, which we're going to get into.
Awesome. So obviously we'll have a link to the previous episode we did years ago with all the details of EQRP. How did Frame Tech get started?
So it's really funny. Like a good friend of mine for many years ago, or for many years, almost 30 years, reached out to me 3 years ago and said, I got this thing I got to show you. And I said, great. And I said, email it over to me. And he said, no, I need to hand it to you. And I'm like, this is 2020, whatever it was, 2021. And he's like, no. So he flies to Dallas, hands me a pile of paper. And I was like, thanks a lot. He goes, read it. I was like, good. And I ignored it for 6 months. And then, with everything that's great, you just ignore it. So I eventually looked at it and I thought there's something wrong with this. It's this idea for reimagining framing and the way we build houses and stuff. And so my partner and I flew out to Arizona in the spring of 22 and met with the guys that were really the team that would execute. And we looked at them, met them, and had this really cool lunch where we said, yeah, we'll give you $40 million to build this. And they said, thank you very much. And you guys are totally full of crap. There's no way over lunch you're giving us $40 million. And so we started funding about 2 weeks later. And today we're almost, the end of the summer, we'll be producing trusses and the full plant will be producing. And I'll talk about what it is, but it's really crazy that we went from a napkin 2 years ago to an enterprise that has third-party appraisals at $463 million. And within 18 months, we'll be a unicorn at over $1 billion valuation.
Okay. So yeah, we're going to have to dive into all of that. So, and obviously construction, a far cry from financial services. So what is Frame Tech?
So Frame Tech is a vertically integrated framing system and company. So basically what it is, it's a manufacturing plant. We're like building real things. We're not just moving paper around or financializing things. What we do is somebody comes to us and they have their plans for a house or an apartment, like their custom house or a custom apartment. And we take that, turn it into our CAD system, and then we manufacture all of the bones, all the floors, the walls, the roof trusses in our plant. And then our team takes our Frame Tech trucks and brings it out to the plant. And our team then puts those things together. So imagine this, you give us plans and 2 weeks later, you have a framed house that takes us 2 days to put together on site. And it's custom. This is not prefab manufactured housing. This is literally the house that you give us designs for. So instead of it being a 2-month process, it's a 2-week process. So that's like 4 times faster. And an apartment that would take 10 months to do all the framing, we're going to do in about 2. So that's the first monumental exponential shift in this industry that's disrupting it. The other one that's really crazy, if you've ever seen a house that's under construction, there's a giant dumpster full of wood. It's like all these trees that are being thrown away because you got to cut pieces of wood off. That we have patented technology that we received last year from the patent office for this process that allows us to take all of our boards and finger joint them together. So all the boards end up becoming one giant board, and then we cut the board lengths that we need. And what that does is it allows us to have virtually no waste. So imagine you take 40-yard dumpsters and you have 3 of those, and we're at 99% less. So it's like a bathroom trash can full of sawdust and corner cuts. That's a lot of, I mean, that 99% less waste is wild. Not only is it good for the environment, but you can imagine how much money that saves. So we're helping to change the idea of what affordable housing is and solve this massive gap in the market, because the reason pricing is so high is because there's not enough supply. And so this thing does that. It fixes that problem, and it's good for everybody. Everybody wins here. The environment, the community, the jobs, the housing. There's only one loser. It's the legacy system that hasn't evolved, which quite frankly makes me happy.
I bet it does. So when you finally looked at the papers that he dumped on your desk, first of all, why is he telling you you're not in the construction space? And then when you first saw it, what was your reaction?
So he gave them to me because we'd done a few different funds where we had raised money and put things together, being a capital partner for and bringing our community of individual Main Street investors to other deals. And he knew that we had a community that liked to look at things outside of Wall Street, and so he thought this would be a great fit. And it was close enough to think it was something that, because I've owned a lot of real estate, he thought, oh, you guys would be interested in this. Now, do I know anything about manufacturing? No. And I can tell you from what I've learned the last 2.5 years, it is freaking hard to build a manufacturing plant and do it, because we have a lot of advanced robotics. This will be the most advanced manufacturing facility of its kind in North America. So it's really cutting edge. And when I looked at the papers, I was looking at pro formas. I'm a numbers guy. And I thought, okay, I'm looking at a lot of things that seem too good to be true. And most deals that look too good to be true, where the idea is you're making 30+% on your money, you really should run from those things, because you're probably going to lose your money. That's how they generally work. And I looked at this and I thought, I got to be missing something. So I'm skeptical of every deal. When I look at something and I basically look at the deal and assume it's bad until it proves otherwise. And when I really dug into it with a lot of other people looking at it and talked to these guys, I realized they'd been doing this for 50 years. And so this was not new. And that's the big differentiator when you're building something. You got to have people that have been doing it for a long time, because you can have all the capital in the world, but if you don't have execution intelligence, that capital is going bye-bye.
Absolutely, 100%. So how were you promised 40 million, I believe, over lunch. What inspired you to take that leap of faith, and how'd you raise the money?
So the leap of faith to me was I bet on people. I bet when I'm looking at deals, there's a lot of cool ideas, but ideas are worth about 1% of the thing. It's really about the execution. And when I talked to these guys, I realized 2 things. One, that they knew exactly what they were doing, that they had done it already, and this was a winning team. And then the second one, I realized these guys were trustworthy. And what I've realized that over the years of investing in myself and with other people, the deals that go bad that I made a mistake on were the ones that I invested with the wrong people. Not all deals go great, and sometimes it's just a function of the market, 2008 or whatever it is. But these guys had impeccable integrity, and you could feel it. When you're around, this is the value of doing business with people that are 40, 50, 60 versus 20. At 20, you don't have any experience or wisdom, so you don't know how to feel and trust your instincts, because you don't have any experience to get in, to use the instincts from. And sitting across from those guys, I said, okay, I'm willing to commit, put my reputation on the line and my money and my livelihood on the line for this idea and this team. And then David and I went back to our community and said, we think the best deal we've ever seen, and we're going all in on this, and we would love to have you be a part of this. And people said, we love the idea. We love you. We trust this. It's easy to understand. Okay, this is framing. It's not a technological silicon black box where they say, oh, it's 10,000% return, but we can't tell you what it is. It's a secret formula. And so instead we said, this is what we're doing. And when we had investors come out this spring, we had about 100 people out here in Arizona. and they got to go walk into this plant. One, there was a relief that it wasn't just a dust ball in the desert, like there was actually a thing there. And they said, this is freaking amazing. We are part of this. We're the fuel for this. Like, we're going to change America. And they're standing in the middle of it. So it was really trusting instincts, and people trusted us. And so a lot of magic happens when you have the speed of trust. Stephen Covey has that great book, Speed of Trust. And that's the difference. People are like, how do you do things so fast? How do you get so much money? You build up a tremendous amount of trust based on relationships, and those take years to nurture and prove. It's not something you can just say, hey, trust me. What's your name again? Oh yeah, trust me. Give me your money. It doesn't work like that.
You are absolutely right. So talk a little bit about where you are right now.
So right now we're in the middle of testing our equipment, and it's a very loud experience. There's stuff flying all over the place. What's really wild is the speed that things happen. And so inside this manufacturing plant, you see boards flying down these conveyor belts, and you see saws. They call it a flying saw, and no kidding, Seth. It's like this thing flies and it's moving with the boards moving, and it's cutting them, and you see all this stuff. And so where we're at is we're at a place where we're going to be producing the first chunk, which is the trusses, in about 60 days. And then the entire rest of the plant for the walls and the floors comes online in October. So what's really fascinating is there's so much pent up demand that we have people literally piled up saying, okay, can you do this 500 unit project? Can you do this? And so it's the ideal is that when you open a business, ideally you're at capacity. You sell everything you can produce, and that's where this is, because people need it that bad, and because our product is higher quality, more accurate, faster, on time. There's no reason that we're not the number one draft pick for every single developer and builder in Arizona and everywhere else we go. So we're at the cusp, no longer a napkin. Now it's a plant that's got sawdust flying everywhere.
That is absolutely awesome. Dumb question, how does that make you feel?
It's kind of breathtaking. It's, people are like, this is amazing. I'm like, I know it's amazing. It's amazing to me too. And part of it is when you do something where you commit everything to a napkin and other people, because I don't know how to build a robot or a manufacturing plant. We've got manufacturers of equipment from Germany and Sweden and North Carolina, and they're the complexities of all this stuff, shipping things across the ocean, hoping a hurricane doesn't sink your boat, hoping you don't run into a bridge in Connecticut and you're stuck for 3 months. Like, there's all these X factors. Our patriarch, the guy that founded this, is 80 years old. Right? There was a genuine concern. Like, what happens if he dies? Like, how do we even know what to do? And so there's a bit of a sense of relief after you've done something. It's also fascinating to me because a lot of people we talked to 2 years ago, they're like, cool, let us know after you've gone online and we'll consider being a part of this. And I laughed. I was like, bro, that's after the fact. Like, there's no opportunity. The opportunity is when we're building it. At this point, it's a franchise model in a way. Once you've built it, you just stamp them out. So it's incredibly cool to be a part of something. There's a lot of people. It was a ton of talent and a lot of grinding for years to get this, hundreds of thousands of pounds of things that were put in place. And like, normally a type of project like this would take 4 years to go from idea to being built. And you notice something when you're on the right path. You get tailwinds, you get political support. We had red tape basically evaporate because the community understood what this was with the jobs. And these are core jobs. Manufacturing is a core job that every community really needs. It's not like a service job that relies on the core jobs. And so the mayor is like, whatever you guys need. Oh, there's a 6-week red tape process for permitting. Great. 6 hours later, it's done. Like, that's just cool to be a part of that. But it's really hard. And most people are trying to find the hack. I realized the biggest fulfillment is building something. It's not just moving things around and getting a piece of action. It's like literally doing something that makes people's lives better. And it takes time and it takes a lot of energy. There's no 4-hour work week hack, even though I love Tim Ferriss. Like, you're not going to get there. It's going to be 4 freaking million hours. And so there's a lot of joy in being able to be a part of that and working with people that are rowing in the same direction, because the energy it's palpable being around. Like, everybody's excited and you get tingles. And so, like, I hope everybody finds that project for their life, because the amount of fulfillment is beyond anything I've ever experienced.
I can tell that you are absolutely lit up. With all I mean, this has been kind of like a rocket ship in terms of, or the hockey stick in terms of the curve. What's your biggest challenge now?
Um, the biggest challenge is there's once this goes online, there's every jurisdiction around the country is going to be trying to figure out how they get this there, and then you run into bottlenecks. How many? Because the equipment itself takes a couple of years to build, so you can't just say, okay, we're going to be up and running with another plant in 3 months. So we have people, all sorts of economic development councils and mayors and states that are reaching out saying, when are you coming here? And it's so the challenge is how do we do that? How do we go from this first one and then the second one that comes online in a couple of years here in Arizona? How do we go from there to 50 plus plants in 5 locations? So that's the next challenge. And we have additional people that are coming in that have rolled out done national rollouts of construction projects with charter schools and things. So it a lot of times people go, I just want to make a bunch of money and be done. And what happens in reality is if you do something and you're on the right track, the big success gives you a bigger problem, a bigger opportunity. And it's like, well, I mean, this is why I'm here. Like, so you don't just say, great, let me get the money. The idea of selling this thing and making a bunch of money is sort of depressing to everybody. They're like, we're doing something that's really meaningful and we're loving this process. And when you fall in love with the process, you're like, let's keep going, man. Like we're lit up and we feel that all of our potentials are being tapped. And that's like the greatest feeling in the world.
I mean, I was going to ask you what you like best about what you're doing, but you're kind of already answering that.
Yeah, it's solving problems. It's going in with people that also solve problems. So I get to solve different problems. I have other people that are solving problems, and we have all these wins, and we're grinding together. And I realized that most people don't have that experience. They're just kind of going through motions. I was like, man, you know why you ever heard this term? I think it was in Office Space where somebody goes, I got a case of the Mondays, and I'm like, the Mondays, that's depressing. Like, what you need to change something in your life. Like your life must suck. You're on the wrong path, or you're just not pushing your potential. I can't wait for Monday. Sunday, I'm like, I get to go hang out with my team tomorrow. We're gonna go build this thing some more. And so it's if you're having sort of that thinking, then probably you haven't found something that's worthy of your life, is my opinion. And I get to be around people that are thinking that, and everybody's pumped. The investors come out, they're like, how else can I help? Like they've put money in, but they're like, I've got networks and I've got like, can we build these here? And I've got developers. And when you're a part of something, I think that's why it's so interesting being in Silicon Valley for a lot of people. They're building things. And so I'm hoping that this inspires people, not only in the construction world, but in general, people to say, okay, what could I build? What might I be a part of that would help my community, and not just do something where you make a few bucks on the side, but like literally what big problem could you go solve? Because there are problems everywhere. And instead of bitching about them or dividing and fighting, like, going into just digging in and saying, I'm going to go solve this. I'm going to go figure it out. And amazing things, when you have that commitment into solving a problem, there's this providence, like all these resources showed up. Like I didn't have $40 million in my checking account, but I promised $40 million to these guys. And that was because I believed in it so much. And I trusted this network of people, which has become a giant family. And it's doing business like that is so different than how most people experience business. And it's why business for most people is so damn hard.
Amen to that. Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable and we could spend hours talking about this, but we greatly appreciate the time you've been able to give us. For our folks who want to learn more about having a house built this way, we're not making any investment recommendations on this podcast. We're not making any solicitations. Where do they go learn more about the company, the opportunity, and all things Damion?
Check out frametech.com. It's frametec.com. And you'll see there's some cool videos. You'll see it on LinkedIn. But you'll see what it looks like not only frame tech, not only the opportunity, but what it looks like to build something that's creating a better future. Like literally the idea of building America. This is like ground zero for that. And I'm hopeful that everybody will go and look at that and go, okay, that inspires me to go do this thing. And you guys will change your communities and this country and ultimately the world. And so we can start shifting away from all of the chaos and the violence. And when you're building something, you don't have time or energy to be mad about anything. You're not divisive. You're like, I'm busy. And you're excited about being busy. You're not on a merry-go-round. And so the hope here is that this inspires people and it makes society better, not just construction, but the whole world.
That is awesome. I love the energy. I love what you're up to. Damion, thanks again for coming back and sharing with us what you're doing.
Thanks, Seth. Great to see you again.
Likewise, thanks everybody for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.